Okay, so there's 3 factions you should be aware of. The Galactic Federation, they're like the space police. They fight crime and injustice around the galaxy while also committing crime and injustice around the galaxy. There's the Chozo, a race of technologically advanced, powerful bird people that lived for so long that they eventually became sterile and pretty much all died out. And then there's the Space Pirates, who, similar to most pirates, just like to do bad things because they're bad people. Like the time they raided and pillaged an entire planet, ending the lives of all that were living there besides a small, non-threatening child, who definitely won't be the bane of their entire race. Samus Aran was taken to the planet Zebes, where the Chozo living there imbued her with their own DNA, and then gifted her an armored spacesuit with a cannon for an arm, successfully turning her into one of the most dangerous individuals in the entire galaxy. Samus leaves the Chozo on planet Zebes to join the Galactic Federation, and fight crime alongside her boss Adam and a bunch of other characters that I can't really remember the names of. Elsewhere, on a planet called SR-388, there resides a species of dangerous parasites that can take over the bodies of any living being, and shapeshift their form into any other powerful creature of their choosing. A faction of Chozo discovered this threat to the galaxy and created another threat to the galaxy called the Metroids, to be their natural predator and keep them in check. Well, the space pirates wanted to weaponize these overpowered jellyfish, and so they attacked planet Zebes with some help from a defected Chozo AI supercomputer called Mother Brain, and successfully eradicated all the Chozo living here, turning the planet into a base of operations where they would mass produce Metroids by blasting them with gamma rays, forcing them to multiply. Samus learns about all this nonsense going on in her area code, and returns to planet Zebes in order to defeat the leaders of the space pirates. There's Kraid, the big guy from Smash Bros., Ridley, the other big guy from Smash Bros., and finally Mother Brain, who unfortunately doesn't have those big luscious lips they gave her in that one 90s cartoon. However, in this series, death is only a minor setback. Like, Ridley comes back to life 7 times in 9 games, sometimes as a half-robot, sometimes as a chick. Yeah, I'm not gonna mention every time a boss who died reappears again, just know that it happens. A lot. Ultimately, Samus succeeds in evicting the space pirates from planet Zebes, and everything is right in the galaxy once more. Until the Nintendo GameCube released and a sentient planet called Phase started sending out living meteors called Leviathans into the galaxy, which would crash into planets and infect them with a radioactive substance called Phazon. On one such planet, Talon 4, a branch of Chozo that resided here attempted to enact a barrier over the Leviathan in the planet's core, to help slow down the spread of the poisonous substance. Well, the bad guys also discovered Talon 4, and became obsessed with that blue rock. Specifically in the matters of exposing living creatures to Phazon in order to create mutated weapons of mass destruction. Meanwhile, one Metroid that was brought here by the space pirates managed to bypass the Chozo barrier, and reach the Leviathan's core, where it mutated into, wait for it, Metroid Prime. Dun dun dun. Years later, Samus reaches the core of the Leviathan and eradicates the scourge of the planet. But in its last moments, the tentacled beast grabs Samus and absorbs her Phazon suit. Samus leaves the planet unknowing to the fact that Metroid Prime has survived, and with her Phazon suit in its possession, has now taken the form of an edgy Samus lookalike called Dark Samus, whose main goal is to collect Phazon, spread Phazon, and protect Phase, the planet. Samus then spends the next 2 games journeying to different planets that were hit by Leviathans, and dealing with Phase-related shenanigans, all while being pestered by her doppelganger, until eventually she's led back to its home planet, where Dark Samus is defeated and the planet subsequently implodes, wrapping a bow tie around the Prime series. Wait, there's another game? Metroid fans, you didn't tell me there was a 4th Metroid Prime game. Well, with one galactic threat out of the way, Samus decides why not go 2 for 2 and knock out every last Metroid on SR-388. However, after destroying the Queen Metroid, and yeah, Metroids follow an evolution tree if you weren't familiar, her humanity gets the best of her as she's unable to put down a newborn Metroid, who she creatively calls the Baby. The Baby was brought back to a Federation research station that was raided by Ridley, who brought the last living Metroid to the space pirates' hideout on planet Zebes. I know what you're thinking. Chase, didn't Samus spend an entire game and remake a game removing all the space pirates on planet Zebes? Yeah, well, while Samus was going on a fun 3D adventure, the space pirates quietly packed their bags and moved back into Zebes. And with their newly renovated facilities, they began torturing the baby, forcing it to multiply into slightly weaker mock Troids. This comes back to literally bite them when a large The Baby saves Samus's life as it turns on Mother Brain, and gives Samus with enough energy to defeat the demonic AI. Returning to the Galactic Space Station, Samus takes off her suit, which hasn't been washed in 27 years, and the weirdos at the Galactic Federation manage to scrape off some DNA that they used to recreate the Metroids, Ridley, who looks like an adorable chicken as a baby, and Mother Brain, who is now a human for some reason, in an attempt to harness the Goon Squad as weapons. However, this backfires as a now human Mother Brain has too much humanity, and wants to protect the adorable Metroids, leading her to command the research ship and all of its creations on a mission to destroy the Galactic Federation. Samus gets sent to the ship, Adam dies, Samus can't stop having angsty monologues for 5 minutes, and Mother Brain gets shot by some Galactic Federation soldiers. The end. I'm not contractually obligated to talk about Other M for more than 30 seconds. Samus returns to SR-388 to assist a biological research team of the Galactic Federation that she, against all common sense, still trusts, and gets infected by one of the now unchecked X-parasites. Samus gets taken to a biological research space station orbiting SR-388, where she was injected with some leftover Metroid DNA to counteract the spread of the X-parasite, turning her into a Metroid-human Chozo hybrid. On top of also being infected with Phazon, I imagine her DNA looks like a colorful bundle of confetti at this point. Also, the X-parasite's infection caused her power suit to fuse with her body, forcing the medical team to pry portions of it off of her, which then comically comes to life and starts walking around the facility, freeing a bunch of X-parasites that were being held captive. Samus decides that she's had enough of all this SR-388 X-parasite Metroid nonsense, and takes control of the entire ship and crashes it into SR-388, wiping out the X-parasite for good. I say unconfidently, I don't doubt this series' ability to bring creatures back from their implied demise. Samus then gets a radio transmission from planet ZDR, which shows more X-parasites. Well, that didn't last long. Samus lands on the planet only to discover that it was a trap to lead her here by the last member of a warrior tribe of Chozo, who wishes to siphon the Metroid DNA out of her body using needle-faced robots, and use that DNA to create an unstoppable army of Metroids. However, her Metroid DNA comes in handy, as Samus discovers that she can now absorb the energy of living creatures, as she is now a Metroid, which is a convenient way to make the series title still make sense, even with every Metroid having gone extinct at this point. Samus then gains a sick Metroid-themed suit with a giant laser cannon for an arm, which lasts a whole 3 minutes because we can't let Samus be too overpowered in the next game. Okay, let's take a look at the timeline and I'll give a brief recap of everything. We start out on a weird note with the Metroid manga, which as far as I'm aware was only released in Japan. This details Samus' childhood, being adopted by the Chozo, joining the Federation, and even dips into the story of Zero Mission, with Samus returning to Zebes. This is kinda in a weird middle ground because it both introduced many story elements that were later put into the games, while also having some inconsistencies with the lore of the games. So if you do somehow, and I won't ask how, find a way to read this in English, then maybe don't take it 100% as gospel. Next we have Zero Mission, which replaces the first Metroid game ever released due to having some added post-game content, where after defeating Mother Brain and her goons, Samus infiltrates a space pirate mothership. Now, the second Metroid game released was Metroid 2 Return of Samus, later remade as Samus Returns for the 3DS. However, this is the entry where Samus exterminates all the Metroids besides the baby, so any game that includes real, not mock Metroids has to be placed before it. This is where we find the Prime series, where Samus helps cure some planets of their Phazon problems, before ultimately defeating Metroid Prime, aka Dark Samus, and destroying the planet that it spawned from. You can also fit in 2 spin-off games here, Prime Hunters, which has nothing to do with the Phazon storyline, and instead introduced a bunch of new bounty hunters, namely Silex, who I haven't mentioned so far because we really don't know anything about them, besides that they hate Samus and the Federation. But they keep appearing in other Metroid games as a cameo, so I don't know. Nintendo is cooking up something with them, I'm just not sure what yet. And then we got Federation Force, which takes place after Phase was destroyed. And guess what? You don't even play as Samus in this game, you play as a Federation Force soldier who has to save Samus after she was captured by space pirates. This was the dark times of the Metroid series where there were only 2 completely new entries into the franchise within a 13-year time span, and both of them tried to make Samus as uncool as possible. Thankfully, Dread fixed that. After the Prime entries, we have Samus Returns, where Samus chooses to spare the last living Metroid, who, in the next game, Super Metroid, sacrifices itself to save Samus's life, and help her destroy Mother Brain. Also, Zebes self-destructs because of this, which I'm now realizing that I kinda forgot to mention, and it's kinda important. Following this is Other M, where Samus is depressed because of the baby. And then there's the whole thing with Ridley, who's a baby and then not a baby, and MB, and Adam dies. There's a whole lot of stuff in that game. Metroid Fusion, where Samus gets infected by an X-Parasite, injected with Metroid DNA, and later destroys SR-388. And finally, Metroid Dread, where Samus discovers that she can now unlock her Metroid life-sucking powers. And we're all caught up with every Metroid game released so far. However, Metroid Prime 4 was announced 7 years ago. Listen, I've learned from Pikmin 4 that you have to be patient with Nintendo with these kinds of things. These games will come out eventually. In the meantime, why don't you tell me what game or series you'd like to see me cover next? And smash that like button and subscribe if you hate space pirates or something. Alright, thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time.